What's going on, guys? It's Psyche, and welcome to the first of the Dead Cells 2.6 update weapon showcases. And let's start that off with a bang. Today we're going to showcase the Pure Nail weapon as a crossover from Hollow Knight. So without further ado, let's get right into the run. Now initially I did not know how to play this item. It's really an anomaly amongst all the other items that are currently available in the game. This weapon breaks a lot of the rules that Dead Cells has set in terms of the weapon usage. For example, for once, you can actually move while you're attacking. This has never been done before, and I wonder how much testing they had to do in order to get this working. As far as I know, pretty much every single item in the game roots your player in place when you're attacking, and the Pure Nail seems to break that rule. And I know I'm gonna get a bunch of viewers that are new to the game. Maybe you haven't even heard of Dead Cells before. Maybe you're just here because you heard about the Hollow Knight crossover. Anyways, Dead Cells, just like Hollow Knight, is a Metroidvania, except this game is a roguelike, which means if you die during a run, you're going all the way back to the beginning. It's basically like Steel Soul mode for Hollow Knight, but to a less extreme extent. If you haven't tried out Dead Cells just yet, and you are a fan of Hollow Knight, I would say, look no further, this game is probably one of the best I've seen. And that being said though, Dead Cells is very hard, as you just saw there. Because this is 5BC, aka the hardest difficulty modifier for the game, you take a lot of damage. So just from that one explosive bat, basically a third of my health was just gone in one hit. This was a game where I spent almost 2 years trying to get to this point, because what this game does in terms of difficulty is really unique among all the other roguelikes I've seen. Not only do each boss cell modifier gives you more content in the run, it also changes the way you approach the game in terms of biome selection as well as the variety of enemies there are. So for example, this is the second biome called the Promenade of the Condemned, but there are actually 3 different second levels you could go to, one of them being a DLC biome. So we're gonna go to the third biome now, and this is what is known as a curse chest, in case you haven't heard of it before. Essentially, you get some goodies when you open it, but there will be a number 10 above your head, and it will count down every time you kill an enemy. What this means is that you have to kill 10 enemies in a row without getting hit. If you get hit while cursed, you are just dead. So in terms of risk versus reward, I think this is a fantastic system. I'm not sure if Hollow Knight has something similar. I guess in a way, if you play Steel Soul mode, you're basically cursed all the time then. So as you saw there, alongside the ability to be able to move while attacking, you can also jump up and down with the pogo hops, just like how you can in Hollow Knight. You can chain them together, and sometimes the AI for the enemies just kind of break. This is simply because Dead Cells isn't really a game that's designed to have this kind of mechanic. It's cool that it works, but sometimes it does get a little bit wonky. So we're gonna move on to the fourth biome now. So this is the biome right before the first boss. Now what I like about this game is that every single biome has a different theme to it, as well as the enemy variety. It's just, every biome feels very different, and if you're not familiar of what the lore of this game is like, then you can probably just look up a video for it. I don't do a good job of explaining the lore, and I don't really pay attention to the lore of Dead Cells, but it is there for those that actually want it. I'm just here to play a good game. So, Hollow Knight. I have actually played it. I do think it's a fantastic game. I think on my latest save file I had 81% completion. The music's really nice, the exploration's really nice. Well, I do think that Hollow Knight is supposed to be a game that's focused on exploration, as you can probably tell by its artistic style. Though I found the combat in that game to be a little bit stale until you found all of the upgrades. In that case, all of the boss fights have some pretty interesting movesets. Now, of course, I haven't even completed the game under 100% completion on Steel Soul mode, so that automatically invalidates my opinions about the game. Anyways, we're gonna go on to the second curse chest now. Some biomes contain a guaranteed curse chest, and this is how I'm able to kind of choose between different biomes and prioritize what kind of biomes best suits my build. Now, I don't believe you can parry with the nail as you can in Hollow Knight, even though the parry mechanic in that game is not really reliable. I know the timing is really tight, and it's not really something you can do all the time unless you're an absolute god at the game. You can actually parry in this game, however, but you do need to have a shield, and that is what I have in my second slot. When it comes to weapons I'm not too familiar with, I usually always use a shield simply because it just makes me feel a lot safer. Anyways, this is the first boss fight of the run. This is called Mama Tick. Of course, she's actually only one of the 3 bosses you can fight. Because I went to Morass of the Banished, which was the biome you saw previously, I have to end up fighting this boss. But if you go to one of the other biomes, you will have to fight one of the other 2. As for what those other 2 bosses are, well, I'm just gonna let you see for yourself if you haven't played the game yet. So this boss likes to root itself against the wall. It does some scythe attacks, you can dodge it, you can parry it, and I'm just gonna pogo hop on the boss here, and it doesn't look like... I think Mama Tick is just kinda confused here. She does have 2 scythe phases like you see here, this is the second one. I'm just sitting in the corner because you can just anticipate that it's coming, and then you can just parry it with a shield. Of course I do end up getting hit that time because I wasn't being prepared. Another thing about parrying is that you can cancel out boss attacks altogether like what you saw there. A very interesting way to tell that it's attacking is that when Mama Tick's scythe glow yellow, you'll know the attack is about to initiate and you can do your best to prepare for it. So just like that one, what you're supposed to do there is you're supposed to move to the other side of the screen, but you can just parry it and cancel the attack altogether. In terms of damage, comparing to the other weapons, this is slightly on the lower end actually. I do understand that I have a lower than usual scroll count by this point of the game, but anyways, thanks to No Mercy, one of our mutations, we were able to clear the boss fight. We're gonna go on to the graveyard, which is the next biome that we're gonna go to. So like I said, it's not really a surprise that every biome feels very different from one another. This is obviously not an exception for graveyard. In fact, I know a lot of people think this is one of the best designed biomes in the game, and I would agree. Of course, I do end up getting hit there. If you're wondering how you're supposed to heal up in this game, I know in Hollow Knight you got the souls, you can just hold the circle button and it heals you up. But in this game, you heal with your health flasks, which is the thing that you see on the bottom left side of the screen. However, you can only heal up to 4 times, otherwise it's empty, and just like in Hollow Knight, while you are healing, you are vulnerable, so you do have to find the right timing in order to heal back up. In addition, there are also food items that you can find in the run, but those are really rare, but I really wouldn't rely on finding them. Anyways, as for the skills, which are the 3rd and 4th slots that you see in my loadout there, I'm just gonna pick whatever I want, because you get to have a lot more freedom when it comes to skills as with weapons. In terms of synergies, I'm not sure what the nail best synergizes with. Now, because of its fast, rapid movement, there is actually a lot of things you can do to really take advantage of its mobility. You can even pair it up with the meat skewer because it actually increases your attack speed as you can sneak in attacks with the nail in between attacks with the meat skewer. A lot of ways you can use it, but I'm not sure if it's intended by the game that you're exposed to exploit the pattern like that. Anyways, this is the 3rd and final curse chest of the run. This biome also contains a guaranteed curse chest, so right now I'm just gonna speed up the footage where nothing's really happening. We're gonna find some enemies to kill, and I'm just gonna lay down my skills because they're gonna do most of the work for me. When you are cursed, you really don't want to take any chances. This is a really big barrier when it comes to newer players because I used to be extremely afraid of curses, but now it's not so bad. And you'll get to the point where you're comfortable with parrying even while cursed, because if you don't land a parry, well, you are just dead. It does not matter what form of damage that you take. It could be from a trap, it could be from like a really minor mistake, but if you get hit while cursed, you are just dead, and there are no exceptions. Well, there's a couple exceptions, but I'm not gonna really go too deep into them. So with the nail, what you can do with the upward strike is that you can actually hit things one platform above you, but this is not always consistent that I found. Now in Hollow Knight you can hit things through solid walls, but that does not seem to be the case here. You do actually have to hit things that are on a climbable platform in order for the hit to register. And sometimes biome choice really does matter with the nail, because some biomes have really tight spaces, you don't have a lot of overhead room to bounce off of enemies. Now, in terms of this biome, the Cavern, the nail actually does pretty well, because as you saw there with the slammers, you can just climb on top of them and they cannot hit you, because they have a ground slam attack. And since while you're pogoing, you're never on the ground anyways, you should be completely safe. So with that regard, I can definitely appreciate the amount of depth and flexibility you can do with the nail. If you look at it really closely, you can actually feel that it has a high skill ceiling. However, the only complaint I have it by this point is that its damage could be better in my opinion. For those that are new to Dead Cells, this may not seem like too much of a big deal, but for a lot of the really strong builds, your weapons are pretty much one-shotting or two-shotting enemies by this point. Anyways, moving on to the second boss, this is the Giant. Of course, I'm skipping the cutscenes simply because there are people that are new at the game and I want you to experience the cutscenes for the first time. So just like Mama Tick, this is one of 3 possible second bosses that you can fight in the game. Again, as for what the other 2 are, I'm just gonna let you find out for yourself if you haven't played the game yet. Now, comparing bosses from Dead Cells to Hollow Knight, I do think there's definitely a lot more variety when it comes to Hollow Knight, but there are also a lot more bosses. I haven't actually beaten the last arena level yet, and I don't even know what the hell Pantheon means. Like, I didn't even get to that point. I did explore the entire map. I didn't do all of the charms, I didn't do all of the enemies in the journals, because my favorite aspect about Hollow Knight is that when you walk into a new area, you don't know what to expect. And really, the joy of seeing a novel environment alongside the really good music just really sells the game for me. So by this point, my scroll stat is at 25, if you see in the bottom left side of the screen. This is actually on the lower end. Now, you don't really upgrade the weapon as you do in Dead Cells. I know you can go to the blacksmith, you get like, what was it called? The pale ore or something, and then he upgrades the nail for you. In this game, your damage scales exponentially with each passing scroll stat. So in this case, normally by this point, you will want to have around 29. So I'm actually on the lower end, but we're gonna go and get 2 more scroll stats between the transition level. And this is supposedly the final boss of the game, Hand of the King. But in a second here, you'll just see how ridiculous this fight gets. I did not expect that this was gonna happen, but what I'm doing here is that I'm just gonna pogo off Hand of the King. And yeah, he's just looking left and right, he's looking really confused right now. I basically just outsmarted him, and this is how you're supposed to play the pure nail. He's gonna rise up and he's gonna summon the enemies. Anyways, obviously this is not how you're supposed to do this fight. Usually this fight's way more intense than this. It's because of the fact that Dead Cells really isn't designed to have this kind of gameplay. So he's gonna do 1 ground stun attack there, and I'm just gonna keep pogo hopping him again. Whether or not this is good gameplay, well, that's really up to you to interpret. Anyways, that was a no-hit fight. This next part is going to be spoiler territory. This is content that's only available on 5BC, which is the true endgame. If you have not yet played Dead Cells, this is your chance to turn back now. Anyways, heading into the Astrolab now. By this point, in terms of pure damage, I really think the nail could be slightly better. So an idea I had is that it does more damage the more consecutive pogos you have on an enemy. And I think this will really encourage players to master this ability, to pogo on enemies consecutively and really deal as much damage as possible. So what I found out in this biome specifically is that the nail is really good at handling those librarian monsters, because with the upward strike, you can actually hit them while they're attacking you. In terms of other items, I know only very few items that can do that. But at this point, I'm just trying to pogo off enemies, since that seems to be the best way to play this build. And with the help of the colorless wolf trap, I should mention that I did get it in one of the curse chests. So this will allow me to root enemies in place, which I theorize that it's going to make it slightly easier for me to pogo off enemies, since they will not be moving. I know, quite genius, isn't it? Normally, wolf trap only scales with tactics and survival, but I was pretty lucky and I was able to find one. So by this point, I was fairly confident that I can win this run. The only thing is that again, the damage is really not too good, so I had to run some pretty defensive mutations from here on. That being said though, I don't find that the enemies right now are that tough. As you can see, with the help of Wolf Trap, because it gives you a damage boost, with 2 Pogos, the failed experiments are dead, so that's actually pretty good. And because of the structure of the tower, this is really beneficial for me because you can just jump down and then Pogo on enemies. In fact, some people theorize that the Undying Shores will be a fantastic biome for the nail since you will mostly be going downwards. And just like that, I just noticed now, but you can knock those bombers out of the air if you use the upward strike fast enough. It doesn't work all of the time, so that's why I sometimes hesitate on doing it, but it's really cool that you can do it in the first place. I'm gonna do a cool maneuver there, gonna kill 2 bombers at the same time. So again, a lot of ways you can use the nail. It's definitely not the strongest weapon out there, but if you can get creative with it, you can potentially get in a lot of damage. And I don't know what that slammer's doing, it's just kind of standing there. I don't even have a wolf trap on it, I believe. So during this tower area, I'm trying my best not to get hit by the traps because I still haven't unlocked the Explorer outfit for one of the crossover costumes yet. So I believe the requirement for that one is that you cannot get hit by traps for the entirety of a run. That's exactly what I'm trying to do here, and I did actually manage to find a +4 brutality amulet. And on top of that, finding a dual stat scroll that brings my scroll count to 31, which is actually considered to be average by this point. Anyways, I'm gonna show off the final build that I had. I had a lot of really good affixes on the nail, plus damage to poison as well as bleeding. And believe me, it was not easy to find that. Anyways, we're gonna meet our old friend Collector and we're gonna initiate the fight. I'm gonna be a little bit curious here and I'm gonna see if I can do the same thing as I can with Hand of the King. I mean, it would be really cool if you could just pogo off the Collector and then just end the fight right then and there since he can't really attack you. But unfortunately, Collector has a higher IQ than Hand of the King, and he's aware that you're trying to pogo off of him. Luckily though, what you can do with the pogo is that you can dodge the bombs that he throws altogether because they only hit the ground. So that is again a really interesting approach to play the game. When it comes to bosses, the pogo, although it's a really simple mechanic, it is different enough that you can use it really well. So in this room, he's gonna summon the enemies. We're just gonna pogo off of him once again while he's rooted by the wolf trap. Unfortunately, didn't get him with a cleaver, otherwise I would have applied some bleeding affixes and it would have been even better. So I believe this is going to be the second heal. So this is going to be the moment of truth. I don't know whether or not he's actually going to teleport me to the spinning ballroom. If he doesn't, that means this build's actually quite decent, and that does actually seem to be the case. Now, I'm not sure it's because of Cleaver or Wolf Trap that does that, but luckily we're able to get him into the final phase without being teleported to the spinning ballroom. So this is the final stretch of the game here. He's gonna do some attacks, and in a second he's just gonna drink the health flask. That is if he stops doing the really annoying ground slam attack. There's the flask. We're gonna drink the panacea, and I believe I'm just gonna get him with a cleaver here. It's doing some amazing work for me. Just gonna land in one more hit with the nail, and the collector is down. So that was a really unique run, to say the least. Again, I don't believe the nail is the most overpowered weapon out there, but I'm sure that there are ways that you can use it that you haven't even seen here today yet. After all, the Dead Cells community is a very creative one. Anyways, this has been it for the Pure Nail Showcase. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time for the Face Flask Showcase.